Megyn Kelly time now. One of the biggest stars of US broadcasting, host of the Must Listen podcast, The Megyn Kelly Show, joins us with a unique take on American news and culture. And Joe Biden's big plans for child vaccination of 28 million kids between 5 and 11 has caused revolt among parents and teachers in California, with the Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom declaring jabs will be mandatory for all elementary and high school students. Now, the madness doesn't end there, though. The doomsday professors at the US Center for Disease Control say they still want school children to wear masks even after child vaccines are approved. So I would say, Megyn, this is the worst of both worlds, right?
Yes. I mean, it's so absurd, Dan. As you know, if you get vaccinated with this Delta variant, you can still get COVID. The vaccine helps prevent hospitalization and death, which is a next to zero risk for children. They're not really looking at that unless they've got other serious comorbidities. So why are we getting them vaccinated? Why are we sticking the vaccine, this experimental vaccine that hasn't had long-term testing on it, especially for children, into the arms of our children? This is why almost 50% of parents say, I don't think I'm going to do that. At least 40% say, I'm not going to do it. At least over 50 are wondering. They're not sure. They want to go later in the process. And I understand that fully myself. So it's like, because more kids did die last year in America from the flu than died from COVID. That is true. You're not allowed to make that comparison, but it's a fact. And we don't mask our kids for the flu, and we don't mandate flu vaccines. And that's why you're seeing a walkout in the LA school district, because it's mandated. This is a public school. If you pay taxes, they have to take your kid. And if you live in LA, you have very few other options unless you want to go the private route, which is $50,000 to $60,000 a year, which most people cannot afford. So you have no choice but to stick that needle soon in the arm of your 5-year-old, whereupon he will remain masked for 8 to 10 hours a day. And if you don't like it, you are out of options.
My goodness. And so, Megyn, what is so shocking to me about this is it's a Democratic governor who claims that he cares about tackling inequalities. But actually, what you're going to get, aren't you, is a lot of underprivileged children, a lot of kids from African-American households where there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy. What, they're simply not going to be able to be educated. Is that right? This
whole thing, the vaccine mandates for the kids and the adults, and I say this as a fully vaccinated person who loves the vaccines. They're miracles. However, the whole mandated vaccine thing, whether it's for children or adults, is about class. Whether you are working class, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. It's going to hurt you because you will get kicked out of school and you will not be able to hire a tutor the way all the elite, rich kids of journalists and these politicians will be able to, right, if they have some principled stand on vaccines. And as adults, too, what we're seeing here as the vaccine mandates pop up in state after state and city after city in America is who's losing their jobs. In New York City, they just said you've got until next Friday if you work for the city. We're talking cops, firefighters, paramedics, guys who work in the prisons, and on and on. Those are the ones who are about to get fired unless they get this mandatory vaccine. And 30% or more of the groups I just ticked off are refusing to do it. So we are going to see potentially thousands of working class guys and gals get fired. We already saw it with educators and nurses get fired because they don't want to get this vaccine, many of whom already have natural immunity, something that the Europeans are accounting for, but the Americans refuse to acknowledge provides you with any sort of natural immunity.
And it's ridiculous because, of course, natural immunity is actually much better than the vaccine when it comes to protection. And by all accounts, it lasts for longer, too. But I think just what's so shocking in all of this, Megyn, is that they're cutting off their nose to spite their face, these officials. And we see the same thing over here because the tougher you get about the need for enforcement or coercion when it comes to the vaccine, actually, the more suspicious vaccine hesitant folk become and the less likely they become to get jabbed.
And you know what? They're getting angrier over here.
Yeah.
They have gotten rid of, I recently moved to the state of Connecticut. In the state of Connecticut, the governor got rid of all religious exemptions for any school child, for any public school child in the state. So if you have, and you know, the vaccines, they don't have stem cells in them, but they were tested on clones of stem cells. And that's something to which a lot of Christians would have a genuinely held objection and would not want that put in their bodies. And he's wiped it out with one stroke of the pen. We're seeing it in state after state, city after city, and people are getting angry. Just today, I interviewed a woman who quit, was basically forced out of ESPN, the sports broadcaster here. She'd been there 10 years as a star sideline reporter for college hoops and college football. And they wanted her to lose her job rather than if she wouldn't get the vaccine because she's trying to have her second baby. That's why she's worried. Only, I think it's 23 or 26% of women who are expecting babies have been vaccinated here in the United States, either before they got pregnant or while pregnant. There's a real reticence amongst women who are of childbearing age to get it. Even though the CDC says it's safe, COVID's more dangerous to you, COVID's more dangerous to your baby, they're wary. There haven't been the long-term tests. They know they're young. Women have been having babies for a long time without this vaccine, so on and so forth. She walked, and I'm sure it was a multi-million-dollar deal. She didn't care. More and more, we're going to see people of principle doing that. It's not just about whether you're pro-vax. It's about how much control you want the government to have over your life on this decision or others that may be coming down the line.
Absolutely, and this is a phenomenon we see around the world, and it's really disturbing that in a country like the US, and I know it's state by state, but, you know, I view the US as a bastion for freedom on issues like this, so it's disturbing to see where the states are going in this regard. But look, Megyn, do stand by, because are the left censoring their icons to protect their reputation? We'll get Megyn's take on that big Katie Couric, Ruth Bader Ginsburg story straight after the break. When American football player Colin Kaepernick started taking the knee as a protest in 2016, US Supreme Court Justice, the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, slammed the act as dumb and disrespectful. That should have been big news, right? Well, it would have been if US former Today Show host Katie Couric hadn't covered up the left icon's dislike for the divisive gesture by editing out a quote in an interview she performed with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, she went back to the Today Show this week to defend that decision.
What people don't realize is we make editorial decisions like that all the time. And I chose to talk about this and put it in the book for a discussion. I mentioned that it was a conundrum that I asked Justice Ginsburg about Colin Kaepernick and taking a knee and how she felt about that. And I did include the fact that she said it was dumb and disrespectful. It was stupid and arrogant, and quite a bit of what she said. There was another line that I thought I wasn't sure what she meant exactly, and I thought it was subject to interpretation. Yeah, I think ultimately I think I should have included it, but I also think it's really important to look at what I did include.
In the suppressed quote, just in full, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said Kaepernick's protest showed contempt for a government that has made it possible for their parents and grandparents to live a decent life, which they probably could not have lived in the places they came from. As they became older, they realised that this was youthful folly. And Megyn, of course, that would have been such an important intervention. And look, you know, I do feel slightly sorry for Katie Couric. She's written this autobiography. The world is coming for her, and I give her credit for at least being honest. But unfortunately, Megyn, what this showed to me is the way that the media, the liberal media, so often collude with the political establishment, and it is really disturbing.
You know, Dan, she's not wrong that editorial decisions are made all the time. And I'm sure, just like you, I've had some guests call me up and say, do you have to include this part? And I have to ask myself, was it newsworthy? How important is it to me? And so on. Never a Supreme Court justice, no. Never a president or a head of state. At that level, everything they say is news, and you know it, and they know it when they sit across from you in the chair. And it was beyond inappropriate to take that comment out. And she knew it. She knew what she was doing. It would have made the quick quip of dumb a lot more newsy. She gets into basically their immigration status and their parents. And so that, believe me, conservative media would have been all over her saying, see? And liberal media would have been all over her saying, oh, the horror! She needs to go, right? Like, let another justice sit in that seat immediately so that we can, get rid of this liberal icon. And Katie Couric first showed her hand when she defended it initially, saying, I thought it was unworthy of a crusader for equality. What is she saying? That I found her remarks inappropriate given her status as a liberal icon. Well, it's not your job to be the Ruth Bader Ginsburg press office. You are a journalist. The relationship is necessarily somewhat antagonistic. And then she went on to say, given that she was elderly, I assume she probably did not understand. Well, that's a bunch of bull. A, it's insulting, and B, it's not true. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yes, she was elderly. Yes, sometimes I saw her fall asleep on the Supreme Court, which I covered for 3 years. But she understood everything better than you or I could ever hope to understand any legal brief.
Right? So she was making the most important decisions of American law. She knew what she was saying.
And Katie Couric knew that. She didn't want that message out there from such an effective messenger who has street cred with the left on issues pertaining to equality. Why? Because it actually could potentially change hearts and minds, and therefore it needed to be buried. She did the wrong thing. I'm glad she's owning up to it, because we wouldn't have known it if she hadn't come out with it. But it doesn't excuse the initial sin.
No, but this whole Katie Couric book has been fascinating. I mean, Megyn, she's not a big name here in the UK. We have to be honest about that. But I've found it really interesting because she obviously knows everyone. She was even invited to that dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, that famous dinner, and she talks about that. She slags off Prince Harry for stinking like alcohol when she was interviewing him. And I sort of have a respect that she's been honest in this autobiography, but now lots of people are coming for her because maybe she was too honest. What do you make of that criticism?
Well, it's tough. I mean, she wants to sell books. That's what's obvious to me. And Katie, I know her personally. I think, she's sort of at every opening. She's at every event. I think she's in a business now where she's trying to keep her name in the news, and she's, sort of keep her business alive. And I think that's probably behind the motivation, of writing such a tell-all. It's hard because you want to be open and honest with your audience, but to quote Carly Simon, sometimes I wish I never knew all those secrets of yours. It just leaves you looking a little small to burn down every place you leave right after you leave it. And even if you're kind of irritated with people, it makes them a little reticent, I think, to trust you on an ongoing basis, because who's going to be in the next book after having let their guard down? And my general philosophy is, don't go after somebody in personal terms or tell stories that reflect poorly on them unless they've earned it, right? And I'm not sure all the people she put on her target list have earned it in the eyes of the public.
And she's also been criticised, Megyn, for not supporting young women coming up in the media industry. Did you ever find that with her? Because I imagine she was someone that, as a younger broadcaster, you probably looked up to.
I did look up to her, but I never worked at the same shop as she did. So I never had the opportunity to be under her or seeking her mentorship. I will say, having worked at NBC, it's a cutthroat, just awfully toxic place for women. And I'm sure that they were pitting women against women. I will tell you, though, honestly, I've been in journalism for most of the same years Katie has. She probably has a 10-year start on me. I've had lots of women coming up behind me who I guess you could argue were a threat. I never saw them that way, and I never did what Katie Couric did, ever. Roger Ailes sat me down very early in my tenure at Fox News, and this is good advice for everybody out there, and said, you never have to worry about a younger woman coming up behind you, even if she chooses your style, your hair, your makeup, tries to emulate you on the air, because there's only one you, and there will only ever be one you, and they're not going to be able to sell themselves as you, no matter how hard they try. That's true for Katie. It's true for me. It's true for you. And I don't know, I kind of have some empathy for her having been through that same toxic stew at that place. And it doesn't excuse it, but I understand why she was in that mindset.
Fascinating insight as ever from Megyn Kelly, host of the brilliant Megyn Kelly podcast. Megyn, thank you so much. We'll speak very soon. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.